Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. All of our WNST coverage brought to you by our friends at Strategic Factory, creating your masterpiece. Hats like this, shirts like this from Curio, as well as cups like this from Strategic Factory. Find them at strategicfactory.com. I'm getting Keith on the program a little later on in the month, too. So anybody knows Keith out there, tell him we said hello. Everybody in town knows this guy. He's taller than most of us and played basketball at a much higher level than certain guys from Dundalk did. He is the Wizard, and he is ready to roll on this Terps game and this Terps team where, I tell you what, these are the good days, Wiz, right? Like, this is where Turgeon wanted the program to be. Guys like you that are a part of the program where you wanted it to be. They're playing some real good basketball right now, and this is a nice time to be playing as well as they did on Tuesday night against Purdue.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, they're playing some good basketball right now. The last two games are coming back after two losses. So it's good. Like they're in a good space right now, rebounded from those losses, and now they back on that winning path. And that does a world of good for especially for young players, to have that mental confidence of getting wins. And, this is a young team. You expect that because these guys have never played at this level before, that at the beginning of the season would be a learning curve, and they would be getting better when we got to the mid to end part of the season, and that's exactly what's happening.
Well, let's talk about a couple of the losses more so than the victories, because they stand out. You remember?
Oh man, let's talk about the victories.
No. Let's talk about what happens after you lose to Seton Hall, right? And you go pound sand on Christmas and have to think about it. And let's think about that day up at Madison Square Garden. It was very sleepy, and that one certainly got away from them. They've only had a handful of games where they didn't roll out of bed ready to play. And that was probably the one. I mean, certainly Virginia, they played well that night. So, when I think of all of the games, 25 games, they've played pretty well in 22, 23 of those games. I mean, literally, they had a couple of sort of garbagey wins, but they played well enough to win. They've played well most of the time, and that, to me, really bodes well when they're going to go out on the road in March at some point and have to play a game in a sleepier environment. I want them to play better than they did against Illinois. I do.
Well, yes, the reason why they've been so consistent because what they can do on the defensive end. These young, at a 7-8 man rotation, 5 of them are freshmen, and collectively they play well together. But more importantly, individually, all of them are pretty solid defenders. And so then when you have Bruno in the paint anchoring the defense, I mean, it makes for a very tough defensive team. They got good-sized guards, and they can be physical out there. Like you saw on Tuesday, you saw Morcell, how he played against Carson Edwards. I mean, he was so physical. He's a little bit bigger, quicker, strong, just as strong. And, Wiggins did a good job as well at times when he was in the game. So, these guys do a great job on the defensive end, and when you can do that, it travels. It goes on the road with you. It always gives you a chance to win. And so the struggle has been at times when they have those laws of not being able to score, and that's been a little bit consistent as well. So just got to get through those parts of the game. I think that, how they can satisfy that is, Wiggins playing a little bit more. To me, he's a guy who can get it going offensively on a consistent basis. Just got to be in more of a flow of the game to be able to perform like that. But, Calvin's been doing well, and Bruno's been a guy whose teams pay so much attention to him and double-teaming him. You saw Purdue were very aggressive double-teaming him and getting the ball out of his hand, and he just did a great job of setting guys up, creating easy opportunities, and so they have a team that can score in transition, score from the outside, but score inside as well. And so they just got to find that rhythm and be able to be consistent on that end as well.
I knew the Wizard would be ready to give me the full lowdown on the Terps. Of course, they win going away, 14-point victory over Purdue at home at the Xbox on Tuesday night. Purdue was actually a 2.5-point favorite. They were 12th ranked in the country. The Terps 24th. Certainly ready to go back up, start to move back up into the top 25. Let me say this about Fernando. What a dominating performance, and maybe this is just the old guy in me, Walt. I see him and say, man, this is quickly become a limited time offer on him, right? Like, I don't see him coming back next year, but boy, it is incredible to watch him sort of blossom, and I don't think there's any question getting him in foul trouble is going to be part of the game, right?
Absolutely. So that's something that he gotta be mindful of and make sure he doesn't do that to the team. He has to know its importance to the team and understand that in certain circumstances, what's more important than anything is him being on the floor. I mean, he's certainly not going to be here next year. This dude is a bona fide pro. It's debatable whether I'm thinking that I'm looking at the rest of the players in the country, and to me, he's in that talk of being the best big man in the country, one of those guys. And so you certainly expect him to go to the NBA next year.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about that. But the rest of these guys, you mentioned Morcell. I don't want to say I've been critical of him, but when I watch the games earlier in the year, I'm watching the offensive side, and this team, to your point, has plenty of offense, has a ball handler, has all of that. And you look at Morcell and you say, well, he scored 4 points. He was on the court 32 minutes. Then you look up and you see 56 for Purdue, and you see the struggles they had in so many ways in shooting the ball, especially in the second half. First half, a lot of things went right for them. The threes were falling and all that. And then you see where Morcell's value is, and you say, well, it just doesn't show up in the box score. You need to watch the game.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and you look at those 4 points in 32 minutes, it's not necessarily how many points he had, so many attempts. He's 2 for 6 on the field, so he didn't get that many attempts. Purdue is a solid defensive team as well, and they did a good job of not making him feel comfortable out there. I think Morcell has done a tremendous job in his awareness of when he's open and taking shots and not being hesitant out there, taking jump shots. He's much better than he was last year. You're not going to classify him as a shooter or scorer as of yet, but he's getting better. He's improving on that, and that's the thing. Who knows what it'll be like at the end of this thing right here? And so all you want to do is just keep improving and trying to get better, and that's what he has done. He's a tremendous defender. He oftentimes draws the opposition's best player, and he relishes in those moments, man. He loves that challenge, and you can see it in his body language, and I think it's infectious throughout the team. You see Wiggins come into the game, or Sorrell Smith Jr. come into the game, and those guys bring the same energy, and I believe that they're feeding off of what Morcell can do.
Not that you weren't my all-time favorite Terp, but I was always a Mouton guy, Wiz. You know what I mean? I love Moutons.
Yes.
Wiggins is right there. There's some sort of worm quality, isn't there? There's some sort of Rodman sort of, he's a hell of a player. And to your point, you want to see more of him. He got 16 minutes on Tuesday night. He's one of those guys that you look at the program here, and despite the fact that Fernando's leaving, right? I mean, all those years we're thinking, is Trimble leaving this year? Is Trimble leaving? And when you're going to lose your best player, you look at this Maryland thing and say maybe Turgeon, maybe Bino, the recruiting and all of this has put something together here where you can envision the next couple of years that this isn't a one-and-done sort of year for the program. It's a great year, and they might not get a player like Fernando for a period of time, and they need to capitalize on it next month. But I think as you start to watch the games, you do get a feeling that maybe they could string together 3, 4, 5 wins in March, right? I mean, I don't think there's any reason they can't. And you see a team like Purdue come in that was favored, that's considered to be a better team, and they played a little lopsided to me, Wiz. I mean, I thought it was Edwards and Klein and not a lot else, and I think on a night like that, they get exposed after having a lead and playing impressive in the first half, that Maryland goes 7-8 deep with real players in the Big Ten.
Well, yes, Purdue didn't shoot well. Those others, they did not shoot the ball well when Carson Edwards gave the ball up to guys. They were not able to knock down shots, and so it forced him to really be aggressive to try to score. And but Morcell just did a fantastic job on him, and he's been consistent in that respect as well, just being a lockdown defender. Taking on the challenge of guarding the other team's best guy. And so when you have a guy like that, then it helps your team tremendously because, when you kind of feed off that defensive energy, and it helps you get out in transition and just get into a flow. So, it's definitely going to be tough to replace a guy like Bruno. I don't believe you'll see another guy like that for a while. But you have a good nucleus and a lot of young wing guys. You got a point guard, Anthony Cowan, that can be a general out there and make sure guys are approaching the game in the right way. So you're going to have leadership. And you have good young players. These guys are gaining a wealth of experience right now. And, it's going to be tremendous, how much better they get the following year from the experience that they're gaining right now. As freshmen, they are playing a whole host of minutes. And so your learning curve is even faster. It's not the typical learning freshman curve that they're on right now. It's a little bit faster because they're playing so many significant minutes and roles for this team right now. So it should be tremendous for the future of the Terps. You're going to have to fill a void in big men, losing Bruno. But I think they've done a good job in recruiting. So they should be able to keep this thing going for a minute.
Walt Williams is our guest. He, of course, is the Wizard on the Terps Radio Network, and our friend, and for going on a quarter of a century now, coming in here, all these years into this thing with the Terps, and I don't think any of us wanted to see them leave the ACC. I'm sure, privately, the first time you heard about it, you're scratching your head saying, the Terps are going to do what? Now that they're in this thing, and I watch the Big Ten Network, and I like the broadcasters, I like the tenor of the conference, but more than that, the competitiveness of the conference right now, we're seeing what would be a dreamy sort of a look with a very good Michigan team and Michigan State team and very competitive Wisconsins and Purdue's and Maryland's and, Penn State's can get up and bite you in the butt on a Tuesday night. I'll tell you what, it's the conference is really good, and it's good basketball, and I know the fans aren't getting all lubed up about coming down and seeing Purdue like maybe they did about Wake Forest or Virginia or Duke or State or whatever it would be, but this is good basketball, Wiz. It really is, and this is an exciting year, and if you're just sort of getting on the train and coming to the party a little bit, it's a good party right now. This is good basketball.
Well, yeah, you mentioned those teams, Duke, Wake Forest, but you forgot like Syracuse, Pittsburgh. I mean, it's ACC/Big East. So when I played in ACC, it was 9 teams. We played each other twice a year down there and in our home. So the fans got a chance to know these players up and close and personal. And I believe when it went to 16, 18 teams, that the tradition part of the ACC was starting to fade. So I think it was a pretty easy transition going into the Big Ten because of that element. It wasn't the ACC that I know. So the traditional part of the ACC had left already for me. So it was just about maintaining good basketball, and I think you touched on it. I think that the Big Ten. I wouldn't say that. I think the ACC is the number one conference, but Big Ten is right there. You have a number of teams that's highly ranked, and you're gonna have good competition every night. There's no nights off, regardless of what the team records are, and so that's characteristics of the ACC. So maintaining fantastic basketball is key. The Terps have made a good transition into the Big Ten, and they've had success early on.
Well, this is where it gets ugly, right? I mean, you got to get on a plane. You got to go out and play one of the best teams in the country now this week in Michigan. We'll get up early for that one. I know you'll be a part of that going out to Ann Arbor and, all things Harbaugh and Shem Beckler and all that stuff. And then they go to Iowa, and Iowa's one of the surging teams in America right now, and we'll get to see what that looks like as well next week. There's no rest here. I guess that's my point, is that they're coming off a big win. They're going to play the 6th and the 21st teams in the country right now. They're going to make some hay and have to do it on the road this week.
Oh, man, they already been in the grind. They already in the thick of things. So these next 2 games right here is nothing. They already been into it. It's the rotation. It's time. They're in the midst of it now. So these games are routine now. You playing ranked teams, tough competition, tough Big Ten competition every night, and so they should be in a rhythm. already, and it should be another game, just another game coming up now. They should be already used to the Big Ten competition and what it all entails. And, leadership should be helping those guys understand the importance as well as the coaching staff. But for yourself, you play early on in the season. It's a different type of a level when you're talking about early in the season, those games, as opposed to right now when you're in that Big Ten, in that rhythm, in that role. And so they're already there. Mindset, physicality, understanding how to take care of your body and what part of the season you're in, and just moving forward. So I don't think them worrying about the rankings of teams or anything like that. They're into the Big Ten competition already, so it's time to bump and grind every night.
Be too damn early on a Saturday morning to hear the Michigan fight song, for me at least. So, hey, man, get some rest here this week, Wiz. It's always great seeing you, always great visiting with you. We'll continue to listen to you on the Terps Radio Network. Appreciate the time, pal.
All right. Thanks so much, Ness.
That was one of the real good ones there. Walt Williams, the Wizard, joining us here on WNST. All of our WNST programming can be found in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. The buyatoyota.com audio vault is the way to do it. Also, our morning newspaper ships digitally to your email inbox each and every morning at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by our friends at Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's always $10 a month, $5 down. There's one right around the corner, and it's warm inside to work out there and dry. There's no ice or anything on the treadmills. It's nice. Check out Planet Fitness. Also, our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club, the entries for Laurel on the front of WNST.net, as well as in our morning newspaper. Make sure you're checking that out. We'll be telling you all about Triple Crown Series getting going here, and Bob Baffert with a couple of horses as well. It is horse racing season. Last but never least, any breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. It's all brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford, Security Boulevard. Dennis Colatzos will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5, hosting the SSV on WNST. And, of course, if there's any breaking news like, Steve Bisciotti having a press conference or something, you'll get that first on the Tech Service, all brought to you by Coons Ford. I am Nestor. I'm out on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Snapchat and Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.